Well, the exemption granted to Eskom, allowing it not to disclose irregular and wasteful expenditures in its financial reports, will not go ahead for now. Yesterday, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana told Parliament that the withdrawal of the gazette is temporary. This decision has been welcomed by the Auditor-General, Tsakani Maluleke. In a statement, the Auditor-General says it is important that any exemptions granted should continue to promote transparency and accountability in public. But on Friday, Treasury published a gazette exempting Eskom from Section 55(2)(bi) of the PFMA and Treasury Regulation for a period of 3 years. For more on this and reaction, we are joined by the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance Chairperson, Sifiso Buthelezi. Mr. Buthelezi, thank you for joining us. It's good to have you here on Morning Live.
Good morning, Lian, and good morning to our viewers. Standing Committee on Appropriations, Buthelezi, and Standing Committee on Finance is our sister committee. We both deal with budget.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. So Mr. Buthelezi, I know that there was great concern in the committees, and basically there was a call to meet with Treasury because of widespread criticism from a lot of opposition political parties, from civil rights organizations, energy experts, in fact, South Africans at large about all of this. So talk to us about the background to yesterday.
No, let me start there and say we definitely welcome the withdrawal by the Minister of Finance, but the concern was raised by Parliament in general, and the meeting was called by Parliament, the standing committees. So because we were worried that whatever the intentions of the withdrawal might have been, we were worried about the transparency and accountability, which may have been the unintended consequence of what they were trying to do. So it was the concern of Parliament in general, the concern of public, even the concern of the ANC itself. So it is, if you remember, that meeting was called by the chairpersons of the committees, myself included. So the concern came from all of us.
Indeed. Now, the meeting was called, and what we do know that came out of this meeting is that this exemption, as the Minister has said, has been put on hold for now. Help us understand the for now part, because this basically leaves the door open that this may be initiated once again. What was your understanding of the Minister saying for now?
Yeah, you deferred him when he continued when he said for now. He said he'll come back to Parliament to get ideas as to how can we better help Eskom deal with the problems that they are having. How will they help Eskom without impairing or having a negative impact on the fiscus? That's how he concluded, the minister, when he spoke about the for now part. So whatever the for now is, what we are happy about is that whatever comes must come to Parliament, so that the Parliament should be in a position to play its role, the role of accountability. We as Parliament, we appropriate money, give money to Eskom. As you know, there's a debt Eskom bill in front of the Standing Committee of Appropriation now, where we are going to intervene in terms of the debt relief. So whatever happens, we don't want that the ability of Parliament to play its oversight function, the ability of the people of South Africa to know what is happening with their monies should not be impaired in the process. So whatever happens, whatever the for now is, we're happy that the minister is undertaking to whatever he does to come back to Parliament and engage with us. If we see that whatever proposal he comes with may lead to suspicions that things which are untoward may happen, I think Parliament will again intervene.
Yeah, indeed, and that's the great worry, because many people are saying for now is not good enough. This is something that needs to be taken off the table completely, especially when you see the happenings at Eskom and some of the revelations about the untoward activities that continue to happen in Eskom, and now to make sure that they're exempt from exposing this or talking about this or showing this is a great worry. And this was what was behind the panic and the anger of a lot of South Africans in the first place. So, I mean, could there be good enough reason? In fact, let me lead this question to you now. The reasons given by National Treasury to put this on in the first place. I mean, I know that this is why this meeting was called yesterday, to understand more why National Treasury exempted Eskom from complying with certain provisions of the PFMA. Were you given the answers that you were seeking? Was the reasoning good enough for you?
There were reasons, but there were reasons, and look, we have different responsibilities. From our side, whatever reason was given, it's very clear that the reasons were not good enough to overshadow the importance of transparency at Eskom. That's why we welcome you had, in fact, that's why we welcomed the withdrawal. We would have had MP Nokolo Abrams when she concluded towards the end of that meeting, when she said that she's very pleased that if there's one area that all parties in Parliament spoke in one voice, was this one, that whatever intentions might have been, but on the cost-benefit analysis, the downside was just too big, couldn't have been good enough to allow the minister to continue with the exemption.
Yeah. The primary reason given, and this is where perhaps maybe South Africans need a bit of explaining here, is that the finance minister, through this exemption, wanted to protect Eskom's credit rating and the whole issue around its auditing and its credit rating and audit opinion. I beg your pardon. That was what was given, and saying that this would have a knock-on effect on the power utilities, financials, and loans. Let's get your take on the minister's justification here.
We said it's better to be transparent with the problems that Eskom has, come out, talk about them, and the people of South Africa, first and foremost, and then the rating agencies and the holders of Eskom bonds. It's better to be transparent and say, here are the challenges that we are having. These are the things that we are trying to do to try and deal with those challenges. That's the best way of dealing with that. And said, if you don't do that, the problem is that it will lead to credibility of the annual financial statements that we give out. Not just the credibility of the annual financial statements of Eskom. People may start saying, which other SOEs do we have this creative accounting, so to speak? So we spoke about the negative contagion effect on other SOEs, that people may start doubting the annual financial statements, which is not good for the economic agents who rely on taking their decisions on the annual financial statements. So that's why the committee was saying, no. The intention might have been good, but we think that the downside is just too much. So we can't allow that, because it may put the credibility of all the annual financial statements, which come from the SOEs, into doubt, and people start saying, what's happening here? So we said we'd rather disclose and say people know that there are problems, we're dealing with these problems, so that they can rate us on the basis of our interventions in trying to deal with the challenges of Eskom.
Yeah. So
that's the position that we are taking as Parliament on this matter.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, I know that Eskom, they have made a promise and said that they certainly will abide by everything that's in the PFMA, but it is very hard to do business on a promise, and especially after the scathing interview that we saw from the former CEO, Andre de Ruyter. Obviously, those all still need to be questioned and quizzed, and we need to get evidence of the allegations that have been made about the mass corruption that's taking place at Eskom. But, putting something like this in place is a very hard pill to swallow. In fact, to the point that, there were groups like Sakalege who are still, and I'm wondering where that stands, and perhaps maybe you have more information. I know that they were gearing up to launch a legal challenge. Do you have any idea if they are still going ahead with this, or this sort of temporary halt has also put a hold on court cases against the ministry for this?
I wouldn't know, Leanne,
Yeah.
but the minister said to Honorable George when he was saying that if these were not withdrawn, he was already preparing court papers. So as things stand now, it's definitely unnecessary to do that, because Parliament has played its role. And then I was saying that as South Africans, I think they might have been good intentions, and we have got no reason to doubt the minister on that. But the South Africans spoke on this thing, and they spoke very loud, and we were saying that democracy at work. And the minister listened to the people of South Africa, listened to the members of Parliament who have got the responsibility of oversighting and ensuring that there's transparency in the usage of the resources that are allocated to Eskom. So he withdrew. I think we should say that's what democracy is about. Listen to people to say whatever you might have thought before. But I think it's something that we should be saying to Minister, well done, Minister, to respond in the way that you responded, because people have said, no, we don't support this, and withdraw, go back to the drawing table. Yeah. As I said, that whatever form comes in the future, as Parliament will make sure that we don't impair transparency, we don't impair accountability, nothing should be hidden. If there's a criminality, if there's wasteful expenditure, those things must be exposed. And the people who are given the responsibility of running Eskom should then come and account on those things and say, what are they doing? How do those things happen? Exactly who's responsible for that? We think that that's the best way of dealing with whoever relies on the annual financial statements in taking the decisions, including us as Parliament.
Indeed, but I suppose I, along with many others, would disagree with you in the fact that we must commend the finance minister for doing what he did. I mean, how was it done in the first place? How do we get something gazetted, knowing what is happening at Eskom, that will hide the corruption and the fruitless expenditure and the wasteful expenditure, and the fact that South Africans are sitting in the darkness for most of their lives, to be honest with you? Businesses have shut down, and we've got the country on its knees, and then we sign an exemption, or the finance minister signs an exemption that hides that corruption away. I mean, I don't think we could commend the finance minister in any way. We shouldn't have gotten to this position in the first place.
A few points to make. Obviously, there were some blind spots, but when we dealt with this matter, the minister said, no, this was not going to be hidden. It's still going to be there on the annual report. It was just not going to be on the annual financial statements. So it was not being hidden. But even then, we said the weight that the annual financial statements, which are signed by the independent auditors, it's heavier than the weight that you'll get in the annual report. So it was not going to be hidden, according to the minister, and we take that point. We still say those things should be in the annual financial statements. So the notion that it was going to be hidden, let's bank that one. It was not going to be hidden. But even then, the position that we are taking, that no, Minister, we hear you. We still wanted those things to be in the annual financial statements. We can still get out with the same outcome. And the annual financial statements, which are signed by the independent auditor, are very important. They carry more weight. So let's do that. Even if we go to our bondholders or to the rating agencies and so on, it's very important that they'll be given the true reflection on the annual financial statements of Eskom. So the thing of it being hidden, definitely it was going to be there on annual report. That's what the minister said. So it was not going to be hidden.
Chair, I know it's 7 o'clock, but I just have to ask the one last question. Why did he not consult with the Auditor-General in the first place? That is the big question that I think needs to be answered.
Leanne, by the way, Eskom is not audited by the Auditor-General. Right, it's one of those things that the committee raised, and it's within the law. They are being audited by an independent auditors.
But the Eskom and the Eskom board, surely he should have also at least spoken to the Eskom board before initiating something like this.
Remember, Eskom. Remember where it started. This thing started from the Eskom board itself requesting this exemption from the minister. So the Eskom board, throughout the process, they were part of this process. They applied for for the exemption. So the Eskom board was consulted.
Okay.
Not just consulted, they initiated the process themselves.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. But Chair, thank you. We really do appreciate your time and explanation as to what happened yesterday in the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance. That was the Chairperson, Sifiso Buthelezi, speaking to us about Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana's decision to withdraw the gazette that granted Eskom exemption from disclosing irregular, wasteful and fruitless expenditure.